Anyway, so I was listening to Susie. Well, I'm getting this going because I'm going to talk about 401k loans in just a second. I was listening to Susie Orman with some lady named Paula Pant, if that makes sense. So some of y'all told me about this FIRE thing, financial independence, retire early. The Susie Orman interview was the strangest thing I think I've ever heard. I've never really followed Susie Orman because just kind of her voice just annoys me. It was just weird. This lady Paula Pant seems like a nice lady. I was like, how is she not laughing? I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned by Susie Orman and her thing. It was just weird. All right, so let me get rid of it. All right, good. Here we go. And I'll do a video on that at some point. There we go. Oh no, not that. There we go. Okay, I think we're good. All right. So if I cannot, there we go. All right. Hey. All right, so some people fell off. I apologize for that. It's a learning process. That's why they pay me the big bucks, right? All right, so what I want to talk about here today is 401k loans. This was applied to 403Bs and TSPs as well, thrift savings plan. And I invite you to go to YouTube and type in, should I borrow from my 401k? I'm telling you right now, I invite you to do that because when you do, everybody and their mom are going to scream bloody murder that it's insane for you to borrow from your 401k. You'll hear that a million times to Sunday that you should not borrow from your 401k. And I'm going to tell you why that's crazy talk. And I get this question a lot. Should I borrow from my 401k? And the answer is explicitly, absolutely. To pay off debt, especially to pay off high credit card debt in particularly, or if you have a high mortgage, like a home equity line of credit, say, is a variable rate loan is going to 7.99 to 9.99 up and up and up. And don't tell me about the tax deduction. I've talked about it in other videos with a standard deduction. Hey, what's going on, PD? With a standard deduction being so high now, you're not going to get much of a tax deduction at all, but you're still going to pay the interest. So if it's a TSP, a 403B, or a 401k, there is an option called a 401k loan. And I talk about it in my book. And yeah, I guess it's a sales pitch for my book, but I talk about, and this is what we're going to read here today, not read it verbatim, why you should borrow from your 401k. Because I actually model it out. I model it out about borrowing from your 401k. So we're going to take a premise here, how it works. You can borrow as much as $50,000 or 50% of your vested balance, whichever is less. So if you have $50,000 in your 401k and you're fully vested, and vested just means it's yours. That means when you quit your work, you can go, pull up a little bit, you can go to your employer and say, I'm out of here. I'm going to roll that over to an IRA, or you can take it, whatever. It's your money. That's what vested means. So you can borrow up to 50% of your account balance or $50,000, whichever is less. So again, you have $50,000 in your 401k. You can borrow $25,000 against it. All right. Now, what happens in this regard is you can say that because that's 50% of your account balance. So you go to your HR, and I'm just going to give you what I've done at USAA. It's a simple, literally, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. And I don't know what your firm would be, but you click on it. It's all electronic. You say, I want to borrow against my 401k, and they'll give you a quick, scenario of the payment schedule is going to be, which I'll tell you here in just a second. And you click a button. And at USA, I think it's $100 to borrow. All right, there's just a processing fee of $100 to borrow, and you click a button, you hit submit, and literally in 2 days you got the money in your account. All right, that's it. It's literally that simple. Now, I'll tell you some of the pros and cons about this, but in terms of how it works, it's literally that simple. It shows up in your checking account within a couple of days. Again, that's for USAA. It's a pretty big firm. I don't know about your firm. If you work for Joe Schmo Electricity, it might not work like that. You might not even have a 401k loan option. It might not cost $100 to origination for a processing fee. It might cost $200. I don't know. But here's how it works conceptually and absolutely, literally too, that what happens is you have a 5-year payback time. So that's 60 payments or 120 payments if you're getting paid every 2 weeks. Basically, you have 60 payments or 120. That's going to be your term. All right. So you say, I'm borrowing $10,000. You got 120 months, 120 payments at 2 payments a month to pay that guy back. The interest rate is usually quite low. And so when I was at USAA, the interest rate was 4.5. All right. So 4.5% was my interest rate that is costing me. And again, I caution you to get too caught up with the interest rate cost because it's literally not a cost at all. It's actually, and I'll get in that here in just a second. But again, you have a $10,000 loan. You have 60 or 120 months to pay it, 120 payments to pay it back, but it's got to be paid back in 5 years. and after 5 years, you owe nothing on it, nothing whatsoever. And you can actually take other loans too while you're paying this guy back. It depends on what your provider allows, but you can't have more than $50,000 outstanding or 50% of your vested account balance. So you contact your 401k provider. In USA's case is your HR. You go online, you say, I want to borrow $50,000 from my 401k. The first thing they're going to look at, and again, you're not talking to anybody, they're going to say, do you have $100,000 of vested balance? If you do, you're good. That's simple. Then they'll even, again, process the loan payments. All right. So you do all that. There's no, theoretically, there shouldn't be any commissions to sell your accounts, because the drawback is the true cost of the 401k loan is not the interest, because the interest you're paying yourself. I cannot stress this enough. Everyone says my cost is 5.5%. It literally doesn't matter. The higher the interest, the more you're paying yourself. It's literally that simple. So in some regards, you'd root for a higher interest. You don't want to, because it's based on probably the 10-year trade. I don't know what it's even based on. But the interest on a 401k loan is not a cost to you. It simply is not. The cost to you is the amount of money that you no longer have growing in your investment portfolio. All right, so that is the cost. In economics, we call it opportunity cost. If I have $10,000 and I remove it from my 401k, and that is essentially earning me, let's say 5.5%, because that's the interest I'm paying myself. In fact, talk about being your own bank. That is literally the way to be your own bank, is to borrow your own money. But so I'm paying myself 5.5% interest. That's not a cost. That literally is not a cost. But if the market goes up 10% annually and I'm only getting 5% annually, that is the cost, the opportunity cost of the market growing. Well, I'm only getting 5.5%. And that's where people get tied up. And, all these financial advisors, literally go to YouTube, type in borrow against my 401k. You're going to see everybody that said, under no circumstances, you should ever borrow against your 401k. You're a fool. You're this, you're that. They're going to call you everything. And it's absolutely foolhardy. It's insanely stupid that so many people say this. Now, again, there's some reasons you don't want to do it, but the idea that you don't want to do this, that under no circumstance you shouldn't do it, is silly. Now, that's where I came across my man Dustin Tibbetts from Jazz Wells, because when I started doing this, even before I started doing YouTube, Justin, actually right here, 3 times. In fact, I don't know if y'all can see that, but down here is a spread or a thing here for Dustin. 3 times it's okay to borrow against your 401k. And I would think Dustin and I would probably disagree on some regard about the 3 times. So I'll share with you more than that. But it is okay to borrow against it. But Dustin was the only guy saying that, as well as me. All right, so here's how it works. You have a $10,000 loan, all right, and you're going to pay that back over, again, 5 years or 120 payments. So 5 years is 60 months or 120 payments. It doesn't matter. And what that'll net, in my book, I talk about, and I'll show you the PDF on that. And in fact, I'll even put it online for you to get if you want. I'll put it right here that you can get it. But what happens is you're paying yourself a monthly interest, and you're paying yourself principal back each and every month. So after 5 years, there's no loan. You owe nothing, and you're done. Now, the drawback is, so let's talk about the cons, because there are some. If you leave work before that loan is paid off, you're going to have a premature distribution penalty on the amount that you haven't paid back. So if you borrow $10,000 and you get fired because you're an idiot, and 2 years later you still have $8,000 outstanding on the loan, you're going to have to pay a 10% penalty on that premature distribution if you're under the age of 59 and a half. That's a fact. You're also going to have to pay income taxes on the entire $10,000. So remember, you're not paying a premature distribution on the $10,000. You're only paying a premature distribution on the $8,000 that's outstanding. I hope that makes sense. But you will pay income taxes on the entirety of the account. All right. So actually, no, you don't have to pay income tax on the entirety of the account. You already paid it back. You don't pay income tax on the entirety of the account. Excuse me. You only pay income tax on the amount that's outstanding. So either way, you're paying income tax on the amount that's outstanding, and you're paying a 10% penalty because you're under the age of 59 and a half. So if you're over the age of 59 and a half, your only concern is that you got to pay income tax on the $8,000 outstanding. So that's it. No big deal. But it might be a problem, especially if you have, let's see, $30,000 outstanding and you're 52 years old and you got laid off or whatever. Whatever, it doesn't even matter what the reason would be. It doesn't even matter if they consolidated firms like, I don't know, Bank of America is buying out Bank of Wells Fargo or something like that, and they're consolidated firms. If you have a 401k loan outstanding and they lay you off, you're going to have to pay tax on that money that's outstanding plus a 10% penalty if you're under the age of 59 and a half. And that could be problematic. All right, what to do? All right, so that's a negative. Literally, that's a negative. And the other negative is what I just talked about, the opportunity cost of the market going up, where you're only getting yourself an income stream, or you're only paying yourself 5.5% interest. All right, so let me show you something here. I'm going to see if I can't do this. I hope I can, because this is, do I click on this guy? Yes. All right, sweet. All right, so I'm going to try to screen share something. I hope this works, my friends. Application window, where is my PDF? That's not it. All right, so let's click on this guy here, and I'm going to go to here. I'm hoping my PDF. I'm hoping you guys can see this. You should be able to see it. I'm pretty sure you can. So here, I'm going to share with you the how I laid this out right here. And again, I'll put a link to the show notes so you can download this yourself. All right, so here we got a $10,000 401k loan. All right, that's what we're doing, $10,000. And it's a cost of $188 a month. All right, so that's what we're paying. Our payment is $188 a month because we're taking 60 months times 60. So we're just paying one payment a month for 60 months for 5 years. So we got a $10,000 loan. We're taking we're taking out of the 401k. We're paying $188 a month for 5 years to pay this sucker off. We have a credit card that's costing us 10% a year. All right, so inherently, I mean, in this case, you're just comparing what can I get from the rate of return on the market versus what my credit card is paying. And I am estimating that you can get a 6% rate of return. So I'm looking at table 5. We got 6% rate of return, our expectations for the next 5 years. All right. Now, we also have a 10% credit card. And so we're going to borrow from the 401k $10,000 to pay that off. Now, with no loan on the 401k, our balance is $50,000, $53,000, because we're paying that $188 a month, because we're not paying that $188 a month into the loan. So we're just simply saying I'm paying, at 6% a year. My $50,000 is growing to $53,000, it's $56,180. So after 5 years, my $50,000 with no loan and a 6% rate of return grew to basically $67,000. Now, a couple of things I think a lot of people overlook. Now, we're starting with a loan here. So this is with a loan. So we started with a negative with taking $10,000 out. So we're only starting with $40,000 because we had $50,000. We borrowed $10,000. All right. So that means we're reduced in value by $10,000. But not only am I paying $188 a month into this guy, but even those monthly payments are also getting that 6% annual or rate of return investment returns. So I'm basically paying $188 a month, but I'm also getting 6% on those $188 a month plus the interest I'm paying. I think I got myself here. What was it? It was 5%. All right. So I got a 5% interest payment, 5% interest payment plus the 6%. Those $188 a month payments are also getting the investment returns as this guy is here. And what happens is now is I get the 5% interest plus a 6%. So 6% on the $40,000, 6%, 6%, $188 is also getting 6%, plus that $188 includes a 5% interest I'm getting. So after 5 years, I actually have more in this account than I do here. And the reason for that is simple, because I'm getting the 5% interest on which on the loan itself, but it's going back to me. Plus I'm getting this 6% each and every payment. $188 payments is also earning 6% a year. And you can model this for yourself. I'm telling you, it's not that difficult to model it. So at the end of the year, at the end of 5 years with no 401k loan, I have $66,911. At the end of 5 years with a 401k loan, I get $67,070. But it doesn't stop there, because don't forget, we still have a credit card. All right. So here, the credit card, I'm using that $188 to pay down my credit card at 10%, whereas I was using that $188 before to pay off my own loan. All right. So so when all things are equal, I'm paying this credit card off at $188 a year, month, excuse me, which means I'm paying $22.56. So you can see, and because the credit card's at 10%, I still have $1,772 in the credit card. But yet I have 67,000 here, but I have a balance of 1,772 still. But here, when I took the loan out, I have no balance on the credit card, and I still have more, but 67,070. So I got more on this side, plus I don't have the credit card. It's just simple numbers, man. You got 10% on the credit cards, costs you 10% a year in debt, and I'm only getting 6% a year in the market. So when you factor in those two things, that I'm getting 6% a year in the market, plus I'm getting 5% interest on my loan amount, plus I'm getting 10% on the credit card, even though I started with a $10,000 higher dollar balance because an intake loan, I have $67,000 to my name. Here I got but I have to take out another $1,772 in which to pay off the credit card. So my net worth on borrowing is up by $2,000. It is literally that simple. And yet people get all caught up. They said, oh, that let me see if, oops, let me go back here. I want to go back to myself. Do I got to go stop screen share? I think so. All right. Yeah. So I got to stop screen share. Oops. But now I can't find my Hangouts here. Is that it? Okay, good. All right. So when you so the point is when you're, let me just minimize this a little bit. Bear with me just a second, my friends. Yeah, one of these days I'll get this right. All right, so good. So when you take out the loan from your credit card, not only are your 401k loan, you're paying off that 10% credit card amount. That's gone. Instead, you're not only not paying 10% to the bank, but you're paying yourself the 5% or 6% or 5.5%, whatever the loan is, on top of the interest that on top of the loan payment is also growing at whatever your rate of return expectations are for the markets. And so it's insane that people don't get this. I don't understand it, which is why I modeled it in the book. Because if you just do a simple spreadsheet, you say, okay, at the end of 5 years, I got more money. But at the end of the 5 years, I have less money and I still have a credit card debt. It doesn't make sense. Now, I did do a model too, and I didn't put it in the book, but I have for someone else who asked me, should they do a 401k loan to pay off a lease at 2%? Not necessarily. It really, in that regard, it depends on what your expected rate of return on the market. It's really when you get above, basically 7% roughly, and there's no magic number here for an investment, for an interest rate, and what your expectations are for investment rates of return are as well. If you expect to get a high investment rate of return and your interest rate that you're paying is low, then I wouldn't borrow against my 401k. But let me ask you, what happened yesterday? The market fell, the Dow was down 800 points, the NASDAQ 500 or something like that. And that's another thing when it comes to borrowing against your 401k. If you have big debt that's out there that you're paying a pretty significant amount of money on, and you're hoping that the market's going to work with you to give you that 10 or 8% year rate of return. Now, remember, 401k loan is only for 5 years. So in some ways, that's a short to intermediate term loan. But that also means your market, your investments in the equity stock markets are only 5 years as well, which is a short to intermediate rate of return there too. So if someone were to say for right now, I expect to get 10% a year, I'd say you can expect whatever you want. But over the next 5 years, it's going to fluctuate. In fact, I would be highly suspecting that we're going to get us a decent market decline, because it happens all the time. And again, I modeled that in my book as well. When someone has a big market decline and they still carry the 401k debt, the credit card debt, excuse me. So let's just say, fast forward, you did not borrow against your 401k, and instead you're going to use that $188 a month to pay off your credit card. Every month you're paying off your 10% credit card because you think the market's going to go up by 10% a year. So now we fast forward, and just for simplicity, the market fell 20%. Well, now you got $40,000 outstanding in your 401k loan, but you still have a credit card debt of $8,000. So now you got $40,000 in your 401k and a credit card debt of $8,000. Your net worth in that case is $48,000. And the other capacity, you had $40,000 in your 401k because you took $10,000 out to pay off your credit card, but not $48,000. You have $42,000, but you no longer have a credit card debt. So you avoided the market decline, and now you're paying yourself back with a higher interest than you're getting the market because the market just fell. I didn't explain that very well, so definitely read the chapter I put on here because that didn't come off what I meant to say. At the end of the day, if the market collapses and you're relying on the market to give you a 10% year-over-year rate of return, the market collapses, you're going to have less money. In fact, we got somebody here that says, Yeah, well, and here's what this guy said. No, I completely agree. Tom in Fredonia, wherever that is, he says the problem is people will have another 10,000. I could not agree that more. So Tom's saying the problem with borrowing against your 401k is that you're going to not cut back your spending, and you're going to have another $10,000. That I completely agree with you there. If that's an issue, you don't want to borrow against your 401k. All right, so a couple things, because I'll put the, like I said, I'll put the PDF file in the show notes here, and you can link it because I didn't explain that last part well, but it's important for you to understand if the market does decline. All right, so also, this is a nice thing about 401k, because I hear all the time, should I roll my 401k to an IRA when I change jobs? And the answer is no, a lot of times, because a 401k is the only thing that can allow you the borrowing capacity. That's it. No other. The IRA does not allow you to borrow against it. In fact, if you think about it like this, if you if you take $10,000 of an IRA out and you're in the 25% tax bracket, you're going to have to pull $13,330 out to get $10,000. And again, I'd show this in my PDF on that, on the chapter. Because if you're in a 25% tax bracket and you need $10,000 to pay off a 10% credit card, it doesn't cost you $10,000. It costs you $13,333 because you got to pay tax on the amount of money that you pulled out of the IRA. And if you're trying to net $10,000 to pay off your credit card, it's not a 10,000 swap for swap. It's not. And that's the drawback about IRAs, whereas 401ks does allow you to borrow. Now, I'm going to get into the last thing. I hear all these people, but Josh, you're paying with after-tax money. We're going to get in that because that's an argument that's easily blown away. Now, so I'm not a fan of using this strategy because there is no strategy for an IRA or a simple IRA or a SEP IRA. It doesn't work like that because you can't borrow against it. You literally got to take a taxable distribution. So that's not good. Don't want you to take a taxable distribution if you're in a higher tax bracket, 25% or something like that, or 22% now, in order to pay a 10% loan. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want you to do that. Now, you can make an argument that it does in some capacity. I don't know if I agree with that, but that I'm willing to hear that argument, but I don't like it as much. I do like borrowing against your 401k because it comes out tax-free. All right, so I got my little trusty chart here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not because it might go backwards. I think it will. It might be backwards or not. I can't tell. But anyway, at the end of the day, with a 401k, you're putting money in. That's putting money in is taxed. It's before tax. All right. So I want to write that out. You probably can't read that because my handwriting is awesome. You put money into your 401k, goes in pre-tax, right? Now, 59 and a half, you say, I'm getting out of the crappy old job. I'm going to start taking distributions out. So I take money out. It comes after tax. So you got to pay tax on the money you take out. So we're not talking about a loan here. I quit my job. I need to have an income stream. I did not pay tax on the money went going into the 401k, but I do get my money out. I got to pay tax on it. You see? So they wipe each other out. Pre-tax, after tax, it collapses a wash. So when you take money out of a 401k via a loan, it is also pre-tax or before tax. You pay no tax on the money that shows up in your checking account. None. I don't understand why this is so hard for many people to understand. It boggles the mind, actually. Now, when you pay the money back, it is after tax. So if you look at it in just a straight formula here, and again, I hope this is not backwards, but I can't tell. You're putting money in, it's pre-tax and before tax. On the typical way of 401k, you take money out, it's after tax. You got to pay tax on it. Now, but here it happens, you take money out of the 401k via a loan, it's after tax. You don't pay any money on it. You don't pay tax on it. It comes out tax-free. The money you put back in is also after tax. So they wash. It's a complete wash. People always forget that the second part of this equation, when you take money out of a 401k via a loan, you're not paying tax on it. So you're not going to get a deduction to pay it back. It inherently doesn't make any sense. And so that argument there's a non-starter there. The only argument to be concerned with the 401k is the two I already talked about. If you leave your work before you're 59 and a half, and if the money hasn't been fully paid off, that is an argument. That's a legitimate argument. You're going to pay income tax on it. And you might pay a 10% penalty if you're under the age of 59 and a half. It's a good argument. The second argument is that the market you expect to grow significantly higher than the loan balance. That's a good argument too. you're going to have to make an argument to me that you think the market over the next 5 years is going to give you a better rate of return than a loan balance, especially when I have a 10% credit card on top of that. That's not an argument I'd be comfortable you making, though, because it could happen, but it's a lot of ifs in there. Whereas we know for a fact your credit card is not an if. Your credit card is going to charge you 10% a year, 15% a year, whatever it is. All right, so we talked about a couple things. Don't do this from an IRA. Definitely do it from a 401k loan to pay off high credit card debt. But then remember, just like my man Tom in Fredonia, don't turn around 5 years from now and have another $15,000, $20,000 credit card debt. That defeats the purpose. Now, how about it from just a regular taxable account? All right, so this is an issue too that I think a lot of people overlook. And this is one where I would probably agree with Dave Ramsey in that regard. Let's say if you have a taxable account, let's say you have $10,000 in just a good old fashioned brokerage account. You get a Vanguard index fund, $10,000. All right. Your cost basis is $5,000. So you have $10,000 in an index fund. Aren't you paying tax? Aren't you paying tax on the interest going in? And then again, when you're taking it out, your payments are, you're taking the money out tax free. You're putting the money back in taxable. That's a fact. So I don't know about the specifics, but if I have $188 a month that I'm paying back into, it's all taxable. I don't get a tax deduction on that. But if I get that $10,000 out, regardless of its interest growth, it doesn't matter. It's all coming back to me tax free, which is nice because you don't get a 1099. I don't know. Do you get a 1099? I can't remember if you get a 1099, but you don't have to declare it on a tax form because it's tax free. All right, so now you get $10,000 in a IRA, in a Vanguard ETF. We'll just say that, of which $5,000 is your cost basis. All right, so that means you have a $5,000 net unrealized gain. You have $5,000 net unrealized gain. You got a $10,000 credit card loan at 10%. All right, so with me so far, $10,000 in your Vanguard account, $10,000 loan for credit card loan. And you're like, I'm going to sell this sucker and pay this off. You call Vanguard, they say, oh, don't do that. You're going to pay capital gain tax on that $5,000 of unrealized capital gain. All right, but you're like, yeah, but man, I'm paying 10% to these, clowns that Discover, and my capital gain is going to be at most 12%, all right, or 15%. And now it won't be anything if you're in the 12% tax bracket, but we'll just say you're in the higher tax bracket, the 22% tax bracket. So in that case, you're paying 15% capital gain on your $5,000 of earnings that you made. I hope that makes sense. 0.15. That means you're going to pay $750 all told of capital gain tax. And again, if you're in the 12% bracket, you're paying a big fat goose egg. There's no capital gain tax whatsoever. Let's just say worst case scenario though. You got to pay $750 in capital gain tax to sell that $10,000 Vanguard ETF. How much did it cost you with the 10% a year interest that you're paying to Discover card or was a Capital One? Well, let's say for simplicity, it costs you $1,000. It won't cost you $1,000 each year because the principal is going down. But let's just say it costs you $1,000 the first year. So I'm going to pay $750 in a one-time capital gain to avoid $1,000 in an annual credit card interest fee. It's a slam dunk to me. Now, that would explicitly be a scenario of, do I think the market will give me more than 10% a year because that's my credit card cost? If I do believe the market is going to give me more than 10% a year, which I don't think you should, and you frankly should not, but if I do believe that, then I don't want to do this scenario. But if I don't believe the market is going to give me 10% a year, I want to absolutely sell my ETF or a mutual fund or whatever it is. If it's a bank account, for heaven's sake, man, get your bank account not making anything. I want to sell that guy, and I will pay a little bit of capital gain tax if I'm in above the 12% bracket. If I'm in a 12 or 10, I don't pay any capital gain tax and use the proceeds to pay off that credit card. Again, it's all contingent though. You got to get your credit card spending under control, which is why going back to the initial thing I started with this, the Susie Orman thing with the fire, again, and it's all these people let me know about it, the financial independence, retire early thing. Susie Orman is just off a rocker when she's talking about this because her whole thought process is what if, she literally said, what if your house gets flooded out? And I said, that is the weirdest thing. And she said, what if your house gets flooded out? she pays $250,000 for her mom for her long-term care. And I'm like, okay, all right. Well, I know some guy got struck by lightning. Do I plan all my bases around these one-offs? It doesn't make any sense. And so what I like about the FIRE movement is that if you're going to the FIRE movement, the minimalist thinking, the consume less strategy, and I 100% about it, you're not likely to, you're not likely to continue to spend like a drunken sailor. Richard, I don't get the appeal of Susie. I know my voice probably runs people wrong. I had a guy hearken, I say social security as opposed to social security, as because I talk kind of fast. But man, that interview, that lady Paula Pant, was bad. You should listen to it. And again, I don't know who Paula Pant is, but man, it was bad. I was sitting there thinking, how does Susie Orman, she's giving all this advice to people. She's saying don't retire from your crappy old job because you might get a huge healthcare cost that costs you $250,000 like it costs her mom. And then she's saying if you have $80,000 a year in income, you're not going to be able to live. I'm like, who is Susie running around with? Because it's not the people I know. Most people I know are living just fine on $5,000 a month in retirement. And it's okay. Let's say, Susie, and I'm going off a tangent, but I just want to. All right, Susie. So here's the thing. And this is what I just talked about in the video I just did on women who can't sleep at night because they're so worried about healthcare costs. And Susie Orman Susie Orman plays into this. I say, okay, so if we have just a bell curve, a typical bell curve, right? So we have standard deviations, and on the one standard deviation, we have a 67% chance of falling here. 2 standard deviations, we have a 95% chance of falling here. And 3 standard deviations, we have a 99.7, whatever, is falling here. All right, that's fine. So Susie's talking about $250,000 a year in health costs, which is going to be the way out of the bell curve. Well, that's what insurance is for. That's exactly what insurance is supposed to be for, which is why the whole health insurance industry is so jacked up, because people are filing health insurance claims for this, the equivalent of getting a car oil change. It's crazy. You go to Emergicare, you should not be filing a claim for that because that just costs a whole lot of money that you should pay out of pocket. But we're being trained for that. But anyway, so that's what long-term care insurance can do. You say, okay, Susie, I agree. I think I might be like your mom, or the flood might hit my house, or I might get struck by lightning. So I buy insurance to protect me from my catastrophic issues. Absolutely. In fact, the reason you buy insurance is because you want protection from those unlikely but catastrophic issues that could sink you, which is why I have long-term care coverage. Absolutely. Because if I were to get sick, or my wife were to get sick, we're doomed financially. No other way around that. The likelihood as a 48-year-old man, and she's a 44-year-old woman, of us having that happen is quite small. Thus, the cost of my long-term care insurance is quite small. But if it were to happen, we're doomed. And it just can't happen. And same thing with life insurance. You don't get life insurance when you think you're about to die. You get it when you're young and healthy, because the insurance company doesn't think you're about to die, so they're not going to charge you much money. You buy the insurance when you don't need it, because when you do need it, it's god awful expensive. And so Susie's using this phenomenon like it's likely to happen. And you should, now she did say, she qualified as saying, you should, if you're, you should find a job you love. Well, no crap, Susie. Find a job you love. If you're in a cubicle banging your head against the wall right now because you're like, man, my boss is a fool and I got to deal with Atlanta traffic and whatever. Okay, well, Susie's argument is find a job you love and then retire. And I'm like, no. They're not mutually exclusive. You can find a job you love while you're working your way towards retirement. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't understand. The whole thing is just crazy. And then I say to Susie Orman, and there's a guy named Grant Cardone, are they brothers and sisters or something? Because that guy said the same thing. You need $10 million to retire. I'm like, if this is the case, folks, well, let's just hang it up now and go drink beer on the backyard and never go to work again and never even take a shower, because we're doomed. No one has this kind of money. And then Susie's talking about you got to listen to it. She talked about the robot's going to take us all over. She's saying in 5-10 years, the robot's going to put us all out of work, essentially. But you're the same person as saying find a job you love or don't ever quit because you're going to have $250,000 of healthcare needs. The robot's going to put us all on an unemployment line. So it was insane. All right, so I'll be done that. So at the end of the day, I'll put a link to this in my show notes. This book is available on Amazon, Strategic Money Planning. If you're in retirement, it's probably not for you, frankly. It's more for almost like a note to myself in my 20s and 30s. I said, man, if I could look back, I would have done things differently for sure. Don't rely on life insurance from your employer. I'm telling you, I got a story of what happened to me, and that could have been devastating. You got it, Bruce. Don't rely on your employer for life insurance. We talk about looking at the great schools trap. Everyone and their mom wants to be in the great schools, and they're going to pay up big time for the houses. Looking at this guy right here, and then you're getting the great schools. Like, oh, that ain't that great. These schools are okay, but the only reason they're okay is because you have a commonality among the children who attend there, which is more upper middle class. They have 2-parent families, whatnot. Their kids are I was telling you right now, but the school itself isn't that great. It's just they test well because their parents are paying for prep test fees and whatnot like that. So should you pay a premium to get your kid in a great school when the only reason it's a great school is because the level of affluence that are in that district? If that level of affluence starts dropping off a cliff, which is what happened to someone I know, love and dear to my heart in her neighborhood where she was born and raised, it ain't a great school anymore. Let me tell you, you try to buy a house in her neighborhood, it's not happening. But before it was a good school district, but not anymore. So if you're going to pay a premium to be in a home in a great school district, and all of a sudden that great school district falls because the test taking ability of these 7-year-old and 8-year-old kids drops off a cliff for whatever reason, that your premium that you bought for your home will no longer be a premium, and your asking price is going to have to go down. And thus, if you have a big mortgage on your house and you can't sell your house to get out of that great school district because the great school district isn't great anymore, it's just not going to happen. Anyway, so it's almost like I said, a note to myself when I was 30 years old. Man, I can't tell you how many mistakes I made. I talk about durable powers of attorney. I talked about that a lot here in the YouTube channel. I talk about leasing versus buying a car outright. Ideally, if in hindsight, it depends on what your cash flow is, man. If I could go back and buy a 2008 VW Jetta diesel, man, I'd buy that sucker up. When I wrote this book, I giving you a thing on I did some books, and they had 2008 Visa Jetta diesels for like $10,000, 120,000 miles on that. Man, that guy, the engines they make nowadays, guys, are the engineering genius behind these people creating these vehicles. And the diesel's nice because you don't use spark plug. It's a different type of way that it's long life. No other way around that. Forget the VW controversy. But if you're gonna, if you don't have $10,000 cash money to buy that 2008 VW Jetta diesel, and you're stuck, and I use the example that happened to me when we were stuck big time, and my wife, her car, the van broke down in South San Antonio in the middle of the summertime with my 4 little kids in trail, and I had just started my job. Ooh, let me tell you, not a pleasant place to be at all. South San Antonio is a rough part of San Antonio, and she's in a mall. Thankfully, it's just a battery. I didn't know it was the alternate. I didn't know what it was. So I just changed the battery. We're good. But, man, it was bad. In that car, there's a Dodge Caravan or something like that. That sucker had 170,000 miles on it, and it was time for a change because I couldn't have my wife breaking down in South San Antonio again with 4 little kids in tow. And we couldn't afford a brand new car. I'm telling you right now, it was like $600 a month for like a Honda Odyssey or something like that. I didn't have that. And the reason I have it, because I had too much debt to pay off, which is, again, why I love Dave Ramsey. But I didn't have $600 for to finance a new vehicle for 6 years. I didn't have it. So lease was perfect for me. It was absolutely perfect for me. In fact, we still have that van right out in the back. We bought that in 2010. So it's a 2010 minivan. We got 200,000 miles on that Honda Odyssey. It's still sitting back there right now, and it's all paid for. And I'm telling you, so at least for us, saved us financially because I could not afford a $600 a month payment for a Honda Odyssey. And I just couldn't. And then on top of that, the Nissan Altima I was driving, the air conditioner was dead to rights. And so you're driving South Texas in the middle of the summertime, probably want air conditioning. And again, so where are we going to get the money for that? How did I get the money for that? I borrowed from my 401k, and I bought one of those Ford minivans, cash money, $7,000. Forgot what those Ford minivans were called. I don't even think they make them anymore. But I did. I bought a cash money Ford minivan for $7,000 that I was driving back and forth to work. And then we leased a Honda Odyssey with no mile, brand spanking new, that my wife was driving to take the kids around. All right. That's story of the day. I'll put the link on 401k loans in the show notes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't forget to put it down below. And thanks for jumping on board here, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks now.